Yeah, well, I've been writing on the novel mentality.
I'll tell you one good that. I've read your one there. Your Jerry Maguire book.
It was just a memo.
It was just,
Yeah. But now, man, I wanted to have you come on and just talk about our story, you two and your story. I know got some cool stuff that's happened, like this strolling for the colon. Is that East Tennessee enough, Clayton? Strolling for the colon. And then this thing that happened at that MLB game, the Stand Up for Cancer,
Yeah.
and how that went like viral. I remember getting a text from you on it. But just talk about, we've been friends for, is it 18 or 19? When did we start?
One was
8.
8 years old, so he was born in.
It's 16 or 17 then.
It's 10 years.
Dang.
10 years, man.
That's insane, man.
Yeah.
And so, the story on it was we had a travel baseball team, and I've always coached the kids up till they were about 12. And we were filling in the last 2 or 3 spots, and we were at the it was those batting cages that Keith had gotten rented out of
Stadium.
At Greer Stadium.
Yeah.
I mean, literally walking in there, you needed to make sure you had your tetanus shot. That place was.
Well, it was after they had closed his career, and so Greer was kind of falling in disrepair, and the batting cages were, the only things that were still had power going to them, I think. But
Yep. I remember it. So his son, Colin, one of the fastest kids, he was by far the fastest kid on our team. And, we pulled that line from Major League, where it's like,
for every fly ball,
with your speed, you should hit the ball on the ground and be legging them out. Every time you hit one in the air, you owe me 50 push-ups.
I got all the baseballism shirts, so I had the Willie Mays Hayes one, right? And I had the one with the manager on it. Yeah.
We had so much fun. That was one of the best parent groups. And you've got 3 kids and you've been around this sports world, but the parents can make or break a team. It can take one parent, and we had the best parents for so many years and just never had any big issues. It was just a great culture.
We had 10 or 11 ball players?
Yeah.
We kept basically 8 or 9 of those players for 5 years.
Yeah.
From the 8 through 12, which is amazing. That's impressive.
Yeah. I think they all liked Jeff, basically, and they're like, we hate Spradlin, but we like Jeff.
We're gonna hang out because
we're gonna hang out with Jeff, and Keith, he's a little bit on the spectrum too, just like Josh. I don't know how we got connected with these 2 coaches, and then Dad helped too. It was good for him, and then did some vacations together. But you guys go back further than that. How did that happen?
We have a mutual friend that...
Was this the one you met in jail?
No, I can't say that.
That's a different story.
Different story for another day, but mutual friend put together a men's group, kind of executive men's group, and it was 6 of us together. We spent a year together, meeting monthly. Mm-hmm. And that relationship planted seeds, and we kind of all, do our thing, different things business-wise.
Yeah.
Jeff had worked with, Rob was in the past, and then worked with Lance, and then Joe.
And that was all in the financial sector too, because I know your background is.
Yeah, my background's M&A. So Lance was an M&A attorney.
Right. That's mergers and acquisitions.
I had met Joe through Owen. He was an alum at Owen Graduate School, which
by the way, have you seen the nameplate I got like for Christmas? Do you understand?
But there's a lot of connections there with the Owen guys.
There's apparently a lot of people that go to Owen.
There's a lot of people.
It's like 50% of everybody he tells me about went to Owen.
But Clayton I think you were the only one
that I didn't know going into it. I knew the other guys, and Randy. How are you and Randy connected?
Randy and I have had some mutual friends that introduced us.
Okay.
And Randy was one that he's been just a great mentor of mine. I tell my story all the time about being blessed with just having good people around.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Randy is one of those guys that was introduced, and we'd have breakfast, we'd pray, we'd just talk about life and kids.
He's great. He's a great mentor.
Incredible. And he said, "Hey, I'm thinking about having doing this men's group, and it's like, sign me up." And I was running a company at the time that had just been acquired by a family fund. And then I get to meet, Jeff, and, going through, Joe and Lance and Rob.
Yeah.
And we spent a year together meeting and just talking about life and our family.
And that was 11 through 12.
Yeah.
That was 11 to 12.
I was getting cured off the wild turkey during that time. Literally, that's when I was going through that whole clonazepam and alcohol withdrawal and stuff.
Yeah.
Have I told you about that? So, yeah, I mean, that time period, I don't talk about it much. Mike is like, listen, you don't have much of a reputation. That's not the reason why. We just don't want you. I'm kidding. I talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
Because it was pivotal in my life. We started Jericho in 2007, had never done that before. And all of a sudden, had David, and by 2010, we had like 30 people because we had, we were building houses, transitioned into restoration, just trying to survive, and then built that. I had no idea how to run a business.
Yeah.
I had no idea that all that stuff was normal. So I started drinking and probably taking at least 4 to 5, 5-hour energy shots. Just, and then I'd medicate at night to sleep with that and alcoholism. So like 11 to 12, that's when we were going through that sale to that private equity group.
Yeah.
And so in 12, after we sold it, like I went cold turkey. And so it's interesting. Y'all went through that time period there, getting to know each other. And then, so after 12, did you guys stay in contact? Did y'all keep doing a Bible study or?
No, the thing is that we were Clayton was the oldest of the 5 of us that were in the group. Mm-hmm. And then Joe was probably kind of mid, and then Lance and Rob and I were probably around the same age. So we're 9 years. There's 9 years difference between Clayton and I. So yeah, obviously.
I know I look a lot older than that, but it's only 9 years.
How old are you? He told me he was 36, man.
Yeah. But we were, so honestly, he was in a different season with his family versus where we were. So we did not, we may have connected a little bit over those years, but in 22, we had one of the guys who came back to us and said, "Hey, I'm going through a tough time. I need to kind of get the guys back together."
Yeah.
And so that guy, asked if we'd kind of reconvene a group. And so awesome. We did. And at that point in time was when I was just diagnosed in April of 22.
Yeah, I remember.
And so, we'd gone to the Dominican and all that stuff.
I want you, and before, I don't want to skip over that because that's a important topic. And we talk about this all the time, how men in general, try to walk stuff alone. And you see in these, when you go to a chemo, because I've visited with him and some of it, and you see women usually have all their friends, their mother, whoever in there with them. And a lot of times you see guys in there just by themselves. Mm-hmm. And, the fact that he actually stood up and was like, "Hey, I need some help." I mean, dude, it's hard for men. It's hard for a lot of dudes to do that. Yeah. But talking about how, God works in our life, because you went on that Dominican trip, and I want you to tell that story about how you came back with, it was either tequila poisoning or a parasite, but you wound up in the hospital. And
yeah, I did. I got back. I had a closing dinner on a Sunday evening for a deal that we worked on that we closed at New Year's Eve on the December 31st of 21. And so this was a little, long after the close, but we had this closing dinner, came home and was just hurting. And so I called our friend, Hugh, Dr. Hugh.
Absolutely.
And I said, hey.
He's a gastroenterologist.
Yeah,
I know you didn't think I knew a word that many syllables, but I'm in Braxton.
He's an unbelievable, he's a bariatric surgeon.
Yeah.
And so called him and said, hey, here's what the deal is.
Excellent penmanship too, by the way. Go ahead.
So he told me to go to the ER. And so I went to the ER and they, ran a bunch of tests, said, we don't think it's anything, and sent me home.
Yeah.
And then I woke up the next day and I was just in unimaginable pain.
Right.
And so I went back to the gastroenterologist and he checked me in the hospital. And then they did a bunch of tests, and that's where the parasite was found, the cryptosporidium. That was from the water in the Dominican.
Right.
Which was, the ironic thing is that we were down there with Keith and his family.
Yeah.
And everybody was eating and drinking the same thing.
Right.
It wasn't like I was doing anything differently, right? And so the God thing there was that I was the one that got sick.
Yeah.
And had it not been for that, because then I was able to kind of get past the parasite with medication. But then I wasn't getting better.
Yeah.
And so they did the scope, and that's when they found the tumor. So that was March and then into April.
Yeah. And
then May 3rd, it was on Ryland's birthday, I had my colon resection.
And I remember you guys were just, we were recently talking about how I think it just came out that colon cancer is the number one leading cause, I guess, in deaths in men, right?
For
cancer.
For cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the number one cancer.
But if found early enough, it's typically pretty curable, And it's crazy because we've talked about that a bunch, about how just that's not coincidental.
No, not at all. Not at all. But to kind of loop so during this period of time is when our friend from our group kind of called everybody back, and I know Clayton hadn't talked about it with many people. And so, I had mentioned it to Joe and I mentioned it to Rob. And then when we all reconnected, and then Randy knew, because Randy and I were working on a deal at the time together. And then, we were talking to Clayton, and that's when Clayton said, hey, by the way.
Yeah.
So your story was a little bit different though, right?
It was. I had zero symptoms.
Right.
And COVID, the importance I give Katie Couric a lot of credit, watching her and her days at NBC and what she went through with her husband's colon cancer diagnosis. And in my mind, I always remember Katie Couric talking about being proactive, having a colonoscopy. I reached, that 50-year mark, a 50-year age mark. I know I'm going to disclose my age. And it's, COVID's. And so kind of drove my feet a little bit there, but I had zero symptoms. The day I went in for my colonoscopy that morning, had zero symptoms. I thought, hey, I'm going to have this. Couldn't eat for a day, going through the whole colon cleanse and all that people don't like to talk about, but let me tell you, it's necessary. It's important. So woke up from that colonoscopy, and the physician that, conducted the procedure, he didn't sugarcoat anything. He could have said, hey, we took a sample, we're going to send it to pathology. He was adamant that you have colon cancer and you need to start making plans. But he was also like, time is of the essence. And the sooner you can, make plans. And guess what? Got on the phone call, had a connection at Vanderbilt Ingram, where, by the way, Jeff and I are both patients now.
Yeah.
And the next day I was in meet with a surgeon and getting a game plan pulled together.
And what month was that?
That was, I'm so bad. If Carol, my wife, was sitting there, she'd tell me exactly. I had my colon resection in July
21.
of 21, early July, but it was 6-8 weeks earlier than
Yeah.
that.
And then yours was 22.
It's almost a year. Not quite a year, but from his diagnosis.
Right. So by the time of your diagnosis, where were you?
I'd had a colon resection, and I had gone through my first 6-month period of chemo.
Now, you told a story about a clock when you came out. Was that surgery?
It was. When I had my first...
That's a great story.
and this is fun, and I found so much humor. Jeff and I, our coffee club, we meet at least monthly. We talk, text. I mean, we're like partners in crime now going through this. And he is like my bud. But they were concerned about they prepared me for the worst going into the colon resection. And, they said, if it takes longer surgery wise, it means the things were more severe than what we expect we're walking into. So I was dialed in with the time. And so when I woke up from surgery, I'm in the ER recovery surgery, and I look up and there's a clock there's a battery operated clock. That's the key in the story. And I look at the time, and I was like, oh my gosh, this surgery took like 18 hours. I was thinking the worst. The nurse was like, Mr. Washburn, are you okay? And I was like, it must have been bad. I said,
God,
I've been in, I'm looking at this clock up there, and she was like, sweetheart, that battery's dead now. I had this complete, just relief. I was like, oh my goodness, thank God. I was so thankful. And I mean, she wouldn't find a battery and replace that. As I'm laying in the bed, she's like, look, I never thought about someone having that reaction. And it was so small, but I laughed so much after that. It was just
which, by the way, he's funny. Anyways, I've heard when he's got some of that.
Yeah, his anesthesia becomes Jerry Seinfeld.
I think
I told Trini that story when Colin was in the hospital. Colin was hilarious, by the way, when he was under anesthesia. He was hilarious. He woke up and, obviously I've never drunk alcohol before, so I can only imagine that when he does drink alcohol when he's older, what he's going to sound like. But he was a trip, man.
When I get under after the post-surgery drugs and the influence of that, I mean, that could be my second career, I think, stand-up comedy.
He'd be the only comic that has to do anesthesia before.
Hey, guys, I just need 5 minutes.
What's
that port in your arm? It's my secret sauce.
But, finding those little stories through this, and people always ask me, they're like, hey, what would you do different, with your diagnosis or anything? And I wouldn't change anything about it. I would have started along that day with that nurse and had her name written down, because Jeff and I have both benefited from just the kindness and love of healthcare professionals.
Yeah, that's right.
And just those little things that, she didn't have to change she saw how upset I got. I was like, I was thinking the worst. I was waiting for him to come in and tell me that this is not, something really went south here.
Yeah.
And it was a dead battery in the clock. And in my mind, I'd created that story, though. But how fun. I mean, I've laughed off. I've told the story. And there's so many just little things like that you can just breeze over and not even realize that how God is touching and just creating. Find the humor in this.
Yeah.
Laugh that off.
So when you first hear the words like colon cancer, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? I mean, I couldn't imagine getting that news. I mean, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Yeah, the first thing that came to my mind was death.
Right.
Unfortunately. And like Clayton, when I'll never forget, just like Clayton's story, the doctor came to me, and a very nice man, said, I just want you to know that you've got a tumor, and I've seen them. I'm just going to tell you, it's cancer,
Mm.
and so, I mean, I'll never forget kind of just and Katrina was there with me, and she's trying to hold it together, after hearing that word. And, my mom, I'll never forget. So I go home, call my mom. My mom was a cancer nurse.
Mm.
She was an oncology nurse, and, telling her kind of, hey, I've got colon cancer.
Yeah.
And it was just, I mean, I'll never forget my mom. I mean, she was just so upset about it because obviously she had been a nurse for 25 years, treating patients just like me. And so she kind of knew what was in store, and so it was a tough few weeks. I mean,
Yeah.
we kind of immediately tried to, similar to Clayton, schedule surgery.
Yeah.
Hindsight's 20/20 on all that. I mean, Clayton and I have talked about this. Obviously, we have friends that are surgeons.
Mhm.
Surgeons are always about kind of going there and cut it out. Sometimes you got to be careful, with
Yeah.
cancer but, so yeah, I mean, I probably would have done things a little bit differently. I mean, surgery was a good option, but I had surgery. They found it in my lymph nodes when they did biopsies and stuff. So I knew that there was a pretty high probability that it had moved past my colon.
Yeah.
And so I had my colon surgery in May. I found out in June that it moved to my liver. And so I was then kind of on a course to have another surgery, which ended up being in September of 22 to remove a portion of my liver.
Right.
Yeah.
So how did you with the kids? I mean, what was that conversation like? When did y'all decide to have that conversation?
Pretty early on. I mean, once we kind of knew what the plan was going to be, then we talked to the kids about it.
Yeah.
So I had the first surgery in May, and unfortunately it was on Ryland's birthday.
Yeah.
And so, that was pretty bad timing, but we didn't really have a choice.
Right.
But, so yeah, they were, and at the time, they were all teenagers. So, they understood kind of what that meant.
Right. Right. What about you, Big Cat?
Earlier in this discussion, I mentioned Katie Couric and just her national presence and what she had. And I'd followed her. I was always just a fan of hers in the national spotlight, what she did at NBC at the time. And colon, so in my mind, I thought I knew a lot about colon cancer.
Mm.
But guess what? I didn't. I knew what, the public discussions and stuff. And you find out, like Jeff talked about it metastasizing to his liver and which, I've dealt with the same thing.
Yeah.
But that first thought is, look, I was like, are you sure? Because I felt fine. I had been working out. I was training and running a 5K.
Right.
For the 4th of July. And instead, I had surgery on July 1st, with colon section that we talked about. But yeah, death.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we sure? And I love to always question, okay, are we sure? You sure you got the right patient? You don't mess up the patient, but
yeah,
I had all that. And again, cause I had zero symptoms.
Right.
And you look at pictures of when I was diagnosed, I was like, God, I looked like that again.
Right.
I mean, cause I felt like I was at the top of my game. But then, as you asked Jeff about, then communicating to the family.
Mm.
And at the time I had, 2 in college.
Yeah.
And well, actually all 3 were in college. And our oldest daughter, Chandler, was in grad school. And, Clay, my son, was getting ready to just graduate from Emory University. And so, you don't want to rain on that parade.
Right.
And then, our youngest was at school in the Northeast. And then, so we communicated individual with each at the right time. It was like, because we're so, we're getting information. Okay, what's next? We knew surgery was just based on the location of the tumor. Surgery was going to be the first option,
Right.
and then chemo afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And so getting everything planned and orchestrated before we started say, hey, Dad's got cancer, but we're trying to figure everything out. Carol and I worked together with our, medical team at Vanderbilt and kind of had a game plan and said, hey, this is the diagnosis.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing. And, this is our plan. And since day one, I've been very, very optimistic about everything.
Yeah.
And I feel, Jeff's the same way. Just the positivity between he and I. Guess what? It's, 20 years from now, we're doing a podcast again with you here. We'll tell about our stories from this point, 20 years from now.
Yeah. No, I mean, the positivity aspect, we talk about that a lot. And I think that's, if it were me, it would be that would be the hardest pull. So what was the hardest part? The physical reality or just the mental uncertainty of everything? Like not knowing, like I have a big imagination. So, that running away from you at times, at night when you're tired, when running these businesses and stuff, it's when Satan wants to attack you and put doubt in your head and put fear when you're laying there. I mean, what was the hardest part about it? And was there kind of a progress, a timeline as you kind of dealt with this shock? And
Well, I think the thing about cancer is the not knowing, not having a plan, I think is probably the most uneasy time for cancer patients.
Right.
When you don't know kind of, what you're going to do as far as treatment goes and that kind of spinning.
And that can take like weeks to get.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm in a season right now where I'm trying to figure out kind of what's next, right? And kind of while I'm on this break, even though it's great, Katrina's worried about, hey, I don't want you to be off treatment too long, right?
Yeah.
For it to grow. But I think, for me at least, once you have the plan and can kind of lock in and attack the plan, right? You got a treatment plan. This is what we're going to do. So I knew, just like Clayton, we're going to do surgery. I had talked to other people that had been through it before. I knew what kind of chemo at least was going to be somewhat what it was going to be like. I found out in, June that it had moved to my liver. And so, I made the choice to go get second opinions. At the time that I was first diagnosed, I was at Sarah Cannon Cancer Center. I had one of my good friends' wife works at Mayo on the marketing side. And she said, I'll get you connected with the docs up in Rochester at the Mayo Clinic. Go up there, get a second opinion on everything. So I had the surgery done. Then I went to Mayo in August. So I did start doing chemo in June, similar regimen that Clayton did, which is kind of the first line treatment. And went up to Mayo, kind of talked about the liver issue, and they were all on the same page. Do this chemo round, right? Then have the surgery on your liver.
Yeah.
And then let's reevaluate whether or not you need to do more chemo after that.
Yeah.
And so once I kind of knew the plan, then you just kind of work the plan.
Sure. Gave you something to focus on. How about you? I mean, what, you talked about a second ago, you were saying, are you sure you got the right person? And what was the hardest part? I mean, is it the mental battle, the uncertainty, just the weeks or days that you're just not sure?
Yeah, the unknown is tough because your mind can take you to places that, and again, just going back to positivity and knowing, hey, this is, and I thought Jeff and you, Josh, both have heard me say this has been a blessing from God because it's allowed me to do things differently in my life that, guess what, I probably wasn't doing at the time.
Yeah.
And, but the unknown factor is a big, and another joke or humor I've always got. Like, I'm the biggest baby in the world. I mean, just, people see me, I'm 6'7", big guy walks in the room, but getting blood and like all these little details you have to go through. It's like the healthcare professionals are so kind. I know I walk in and they're probably thinking, here he's back, and just getting blood. And then, when I had my port put in, that helps, with the infusions and stuff and drawing blood.
Yeah.
You would have thought I was having like a heart transplant. I mean, to me, it was.
Dude, I have a hard time with it too.
And I'm very squirmish about just veins and blood.
Yeah.
That's not my forte.
I have no issue if it's somebody else. Doesn't bother me. I've watched kids, wife get stitched up. It's interesting to me, but when it's me, it bothers me too. I don't know why. I don't know. It's just all a mental block. Jeff probably lays down. He's like, just take it all. You good?
Jeff's tough, man. And so I say all this, so the healthcare providers who I've complimented earlier, so kind about that. And then I don't complain publicly normally. I'm being just very transparent here. But Carol, my wife, is like, okay, Clayton, enough's enough. I mean, she's been unbelievable through this, but she's like, okay, really? Are we going to have to talk? And she's, you'll see her like, okay, she's tough, but that piece of it, and going back to your question and just talking about me being a big baby, and then I internalize a lot of, and having Jeff, walking this path with him, and guess what? You're like, hey, is it working? Am I sure it's going to work? I always want certainty. As an engineer, it's like, here's our plan.
Yeah.
Here's our goal. Here's what we're working towards, and running businesses in my career. And it's like, and with the cancer diagnosis, there's some uncertainty at times.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. But the great thing about having great healthcare, guess what? I hate to say it, it's a numbers game. Statistically, they know the difference in a stage 3 or a stage 4 cancer diagnosis. Hey, when it does. And so I'm always asking them, okay, tell me what this looks like.
Yeah.
I want to understand those numbers, but also know it doesn't matter if they say, like, you don't have a snowball's chance. By the way, they've never said that, and they're not going to say that. But if they said that, I would know I still have a chance.
Yeah.
And just to the positivity.
How did the fear, and I mean, because that's what we all battle against. That's what Satan uses, is fear. And that's why it's spoken about so much in the Bible. But how did it show up in y'all's life? Was it more, anxiety, maybe anger? Was it more kind of a quiet heaviness, almost kind of like burden? For me, it probably would have been like anger, and maybe it kind of transitioned too. But did it show up in any way in your life?
No, one of the things that really helped me tremendously was I asked Katrina to find somebody for me to talk to.
Mm.
And so I had supported a charity in Nashville by the name of Gilda's Club, named after Gilda Radner, former comedian who passed away from cancer.
Right.
She was married to Gene Wilder. And through that organization, and so I had supported it before I had cancer. And in fact, you and I played in the golf tournament at Golf Club of Tennessee for it.
Yep.
So Trina reached out to Gilda's Club and said, hey, Jeff wants to find a counselor. He, given his faith, he wants, it to be a Christian counselor.
Right.
And so, they introduced me to Richard, who I worked with for a couple of years. And part of the reason why I needed Richard's help is that even though I communicate for a living, it was very hard for me to communicate my feelings to my family, to my friends, colleagues, clients. Mm. And so I worked, and Richard did a great job helping me, just because I was like, Richard, he's like, I remember when we first sat down, he said, what do you want to try to accomplish? I said, this has brought a renewed intentionality with my life.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that I have intentional conversations with the people that I love. And I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I asked for his help. And I mean, I cannot tell you, I had an intentional conversation with my mom and dad, with my wife, Katrina, with the kids.
Yeah.
It was just unbelievable. Kind of, Clayton says it's a blessing. It truly was a blessing.
Yeah. And I mean, it has to change just your entire perspective on life. I mean, how has just this time period from 21, 22, how has it changed your outlook on life when you wake up every day? Has it created a more of a intentionality in how you live every day? How, more of a purpose in every day?
I mean, I don't know about you, Clayton. For me, it's how I choose to spend my time and who I spend my time with.
Is that why?
That's why I don't really like to be around.
Hurting people hurts people.
Hadn't seen him in how many years has it been? Yeah,
It's
gone. I love this guy.
He runs from me when he sees me. Half the time I don't even know he sees me. But.
So the whole baseball thing was I was like the jester. I was like the court jester that they had around who, I wasn't a coach. I was just a parent on the sideline that could make jokes and stuff. And, because we had some parents that like to, get in fights with the other parents. And so I had to be the one that was.
I remember one night in particular where you did switch roles.
Oh, yeah. I got a little upset. That was such a blatant.
I had never seen that side of Jeff before. And honestly, it was impressive. When you have a dashing looking man over there in the bleachers getting after some people.
It was one of the worst calls I've ever seen a home plate umpire make on a foul ball. I mean, it couldn't have been more of a foul ball.
If you can tell, he's gotten over it.
Oh. And
forget Christians around here.
And I may have had a few choice words.
Well, with the crazy thing is we were at Civitan.
That's right.
And the entire park had cleared out. Normally there's a buzz around there, but we were up on the main field. The boys were 12. And, this was their last season in Little League. And everybody was kind of bickering a little bit over this call, and it was a bad call.
No, it's terrible.
Terrible call. But what happened is when Jeff decided to speak up, it's like everybody just stopped talking. Have you ever, and I mean, it was just like, and I mean, it almost echoed.
It was.
And I mean, it got a little gamey.
Let
me tell you, it got a little gamey. But anyways, man, I mean, that season, he was always, just always fun loving. And even through all of this, that's the thing, both of y'all's character through all of this. And I know we all have moments, but me probably more than others. But your character, your joy has never left, right? And I think that's just a testament you were talking about earlier, how much of a blessing this has been. I can only imagine how it changes just how you view every single day, every single moment.
No, that is true. I just actually have a client and a longtime friend of mine who just told me yesterday that his wife got diagnosed with breast cancer.
Mm.
And he said, hey, I just, I'm trying to figure out my head's spinning around. It was literally a week ago that she found out.
Yeah.
And I said, look, the greatest words that were ever spoken to me early on in my diagnosis were just maintain your positive attitude.
Yeah.
Because as Clayton said, it's the only thing that you can control.
Right.
Like all the cancer stuff, we're totally out of control. Right? There's nothing that we can do about how it progresses, how the drugs work, nothing.
Right.
We can keep a positive attitude, right? And there's going to be times where we go negative, right? It's just human nature.
It is.
But to the extent that you can keep a positive attitude about things,
yeah, it
is unbelievable. And the science behind being positive and your health is, it's legit. There's a lot of control that you can have with positive attitude.
So I'm going to tell this story real quick. So I was involved in this thing last year with Pritchett. I know you've heard me tell this, but Pritchett, it's PhD. I mean, he's mid 80s now, but I can't remember if he was involved in this study or just very close to it, but it's a legitimate study. You can look this up. It's a 50-year study on nuns. Okay. I don't know why they chose nuns, but anyways, it was a blind study. Then the nuns didn't know what it was, but over 50 years, they tracked nuns who exuded positivity and nuns who exuded negativity, pessimists. And so what they found is the optimistic nuns lived an average of 10 years longer than the pessimistic nuns. And smoking takes 5 years off your life. So pessimism basically is more deadly than smoking. That is a legitimate study. You can look it up. And to your point, because we talk about all the time, like visualizing and setting your sights and your goals. And I truly, firmly believe that that's just how God created things. That, in the end, we are all going to pass this earth. That's just due to a sin fallen world, right? That we've all created. But while we're here, we can live it with the best intention, with the most optimism. And I'm not talking about Pollyanna world here too, because I'm odd. Obviously, I think about death a lot, and whether that's tomorrow. And I say a lot. I have my morning momentum, and in it reminds me to attack each day, because you don't know if it's going to come today or 40 years from now. But I was telling this to the kids the other day. I was like, look, your grandparents are getting older. You see them an average of 2 to 3 times a year. Think about it this way. You may have 20 to 30 more times you see them. Ever. Right? So when you're with them, maybe we should try to get a little bit more time with them. Right? And if you look at it that way, it really changes your perspective on things. I kind of wanted to hear, like, I know it had to have changed just how you viewed everything, kids, family. What are your thoughts on it?
Again, just recircling it, my cancer diagnosis, it is a blessing, just period. I say that because, and I've shared stories. Guess what? My cell phone, I had at the time 16 or 1700 contacts, just customers, acquaintances, and I was always on call. It was like, you need something, I'm on an airplane. And I was, the ultimate people pleaser, and to my detriment. And that diagnosis, guess what? Josh, I share with you, and Jeff, I think I've told you, changed cell numbers, kept all those contacts, but it was like, look, I'm going to spend time where I need to spend time.
That's what I still, when I made with him earlier, can I get your new cell number?
But when I did that, I changed that number. It was June plus or minus of 2021.
Yeah.
And it enabled me to control my life and spend time where I want to spend. And guess what? I still, business-wise, Jeff and I both worked full-time through our medical treatments and surgeries and chemo treatments. And being professionals, we want to do our job. But guess what? Be focused in what we're doing and how we're spending our time.
Yeah.
And, Jeff and I, we got to, when we're both cured, we're going to have a heck of a party.
Right.
And I keep saying that because guess what? Again, when you see it, you believe it. And Jeff and I are both going to get through this together.
Yeah. Amen.
And that
you guys were getting after it at the gym this morning, man. Let me tell you something.
I can't wait till tomorrow. See how sore I am. That's really probably going to be Sunday.
Jeffrey, if you're sore all the time, you can never really be sore.
That's true.
Just so you know. Sorry.
No, and that's, so that, and guess what? That gym's part of that. And doing what we do here at our company, Josh, and our team workouts. And guess what? That's creating positivity and belief. And my physicians can, they see a difference in, how I feel. And, as you make how I strut and walk around. And, but that piece of it is just, and then it's allowed me also, talk about my 3 kids. Everyone always makes fun of, I've heard all about your 3 kids and your wife, and I've got 2 sisters and 2 nieces and 2 brother-in-laws and a daughter-in-law and soon to be a grandchild in early July. No, excuse me, early June. I better not mess that up. Clay and Jessica have, I'll be getting a text about that one. And then I'm going to have a new son-in-law and sometime in the fall that my oldest daughter getting married. So guess what? All these blessings, guess what? And my focus in being here and being present.
Yeah, that's just it. Exactly.
It really narrows down your focus and makes you kind of throw everything out of the way that's just not important anymore. I want to ask, because there's some different organizations that you guys are involved in, and I know one of them I want to cover, 2 of them I want to cover today, but, a lot of that's about awareness. The one thing that we're trying to do with AC, the message we're trying to set out is just this, informing people, our people, the importance of fitness and nutrition and what you're putting into your body. And obviously, again, we live in a fallen world, right? And genetics and all kinds of things come into play that we have no control over. But, the food thing, the fitness thing is a controllable to some extent thing. I'd love to hear y'all's kind of viewpoint on how this diagnosis has changed your viewpoint on what you consume, what you put into your body, and how then you kind of talk with other people about that, has it made you more passionate about it, more aware of?
I'm going to look towards Clayton there because I'm not a poster child for. I probably pay more attention to. I probably do eat less red meat than I used to.
Yeah.
But I think the thing about colon cancer is it clearly I did not have colon cancer in my family, so it wasn't a genetic issue.
Yeah.
Clearly, it was an environmental cause.
Sure.
Right. And so, who knows over the years, kind of all the, processed stuff that I've eaten, what could have caused it. And so I probably do pay more attention to it. I'm probably not nearly as rigorous as I should be about kind of nutrition. And, I obviously have significantly cut back alcohol.
Yeah. That was the one thing I was going to mention with you. I know a lot of it, this really impacted that.
Yeah.
For you. And
I was, I'd never had a problem with alcohol, but I did like drinking alcohol.
Absolutely.
And I still do. But that's the one thing that probably, is I would say the biggest change in my life is that I don't, I'll have a couple drinks here and there, but I was just on this last experimental drug for 6 months and they made me sign, as part of the trial, you're not going to drink.
Yeah.
And you know what? It was funny that you miss it, but once you stop doing it, it's one of those things where you really don't think that much about it anymore.
Right.
Well,
and I talk a lot about it, man. I struggled with that because I'm an all or nothing personality, and you and I have been on some vacations together, and I like to have fun, but I decided to just completely stop. Other than maybe once or twice a year with Micah, it's probably been going on, 5 years now.
Yeah.
And I just don't think about it anymore. When we go on vacations and stuff, I'll partake, and it's kind of like my, pressure relief thing, but I just don't think about it as much anymore.
Yeah.
And, my perspective on life really, really changed 4 or 5 years ago. Definitely 13 years ago, and it's just kind of progressed. But man, life's just so short, and I don't want to wake up the next day feeling below what I know I could feel like, right? And how from your perspective, and I know you've been hanging around me here quite a bit, and you see the nutritional stuff that I do, and it's what some would consider extreme. But how's it changed your perspective on things, man?
It in a big way. And guess what? In pre-cancer diagnosis, I loved to tip a few colons back. I was at that point in 2021, I was a big bourbon. I wanted, and then going through this, and then like Jeff, I had no family history of colon cancer. There was nothing genetically that I was.
Right.
So it was obviously environment, and you consider environment also possibly diet. And so eliminate all processed foods. And, there's plenty of documentation now in the last 4 or 5 years and more so now that, hey, processed foods are not good.
Yeah.
Jeff and I share the same liver specialist at Vanderbilt, Dr. P. Again, just a absolute blessing to both of us.
Mm.
And I was having a discussion with him after I've had 3 liver resections over the years. So 3 surgeries at Dr. P. And the joke between Jeff and I, Dr. P has seen both of our livers. So, that's not everyone can say that. But I was talking to Dr. P before after my second liver resection and talking about alcohol. And he's like, look, in moderation. But he said, look, and Dr. P did his fellowship at Memorial Sloan Kettering. He is brilliant. He is nationally and worldwide. He is like in an elite class. And he just looked at me and said, look, it's a poison. And I hope I'm not paraphrasing. I don't want to say anything. But, I walked out of that meeting with him and my wife. Carol and I walked down the hall and I was like, no more. And that was 2.5 years ago. Nearly 2.5 years, maybe longer. Yeah. I wish I'd written the date down, and I haven't. And guess what? I spent a lot less money. I have just as much fun.
Yeah.
I don't dance nearly as much. I was a good dancer, that's a joke. By the way, I'm not. But guess what? Go places, hang out with friends, and we took a trip, and guess what? Hey, it's just part of me now. And people come over if they want to partake. That's great. But so diet and Carol again, my wife in March will be 34 years. Make sure I've got that right. 34 years. And, we eat a good, she doesn't drink. She's, it's like, hey, have some fun. But she's, so we kind of live our little world and try to eat the right things and try to exercise. And
Clayton knows some great mocktail recipes.
love mocktails.
So I want to touch base on this. So like last spring, I think you and I got introduced. Jeff introduced us and, kind of started the journey of bringing you in at AEC. But I know somewhere around in there, was it May or June? Jeff was at a MLB game, right? And I think the camera was zooming in on him because they were like, look at this handsome, rugged man. And you were holding up a sign, Stand Up for Cancer, that had...
It was in July for the Major League Baseball All-Star game.
Okay. And so you were holding up a sign with his name on it. And I think somebody recognized it, called the FBI hotline. We've been getting him out of jail a couple of times since then, but I'm kidding. Sorry. But anyways, I kind of, how did all that come about? I mean, cause there was like, I remember getting a text from you. I'd already gone to bed or something like that, but you guys got blown up over that.
Well, so I'll tell you the quick version of the story. So Clayton and I get down to the ball game.
Yeah.
Right. A few hours before the game starts and notice that it was a Stand Up for Cancer event. Right. So they've got the little cards you can fill out, who you want to stand up for cancer and, fill in the name. And I didn't think twice about it. Wrote Clayton's full name out. First and last name.
Yeah.
And then in parentheses, I put, keep fighting my friend. Right?
You didn't put a cell number or anything?
No.
Okay.
It was bad enough that I put his last name. And so I took a picture before the ball game started.
Yeah.
It's during batting practice. And Clayton took a picture of me and I was holding the card up. And I texted it to Clayton and I said, hey, man, I'm just thinking about you. Clayton and I are at the ball game. So he's like, awesome. Right. Okay. So now fast forward to the game. fourth inning of the game, it's the Stand Up for Cancer. So usually during the game, they'll do a 3-minute deal where, everybody holds up their card, it's silent in the stadium and there's time to pan around. So here I am holding my card. Caden's got a friend that's going through it as well, and he's holding up his card. And so I'm looking up to the Jumbotron, and I see, at the time, my big old bald head, right? And I see Caden next to me, and I go, look, Caden, we're on the Jumbotron. And Caden goes, I think we may be on more than just the Jumbotron, right? Meaning we're on the broadcast.
Yeah.
And
which, by the way, Jeff looks good with hair or without hair.
Oh.
It pisses me
off. But I had this sinking feeling because I was like, his full name's on this card. And so after that, I texted him. I said, hey, just a heads up, man. Your name was on this card, and I think I was on TV. And so I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Right? I'm sorry. Because I didn't mean to put his name out there, and those who didn't know,
Thank God for LifeLock, huh?
Yeah.
So you finish the story from your side.
So I'm in Nashville, and like Jeff said, Jeff had texted me before the game and said, "Hey, I'm here." And by the way, it shows what a friend and companion he is. And I was like, man, going through what Jeff's going through, and then he's thinking about his buddy Clayton back in Nashville.
Yeah.
And I didn't say anything to anyone really about it. I was like, hey, this is cool, Jeff. That's nice. But, he and I communicated. I go home. Carol and I have dinner. I go to bed early that night. And got my phone is in the kitchen charging, and I'm probably too much in. And I can hear I'm getting all these text messages. I was like, something is going on. And so I walk out from our master bedroom, and I've got, by the time I got there, it was at least 15, I think 18 text messages. And one of the 18 was from Jeff saying, hey, by the way, and then it was from people I know nationally, Baltimore, California, Florida, Atlanta, Tennessee, St. Louis, Michigan. Some people didn't know, friends that knew, and they're like, Clayton, one friend didn't know I'd been sick or diagnosed. He said, hey, are you okay? And that opened the connection there. Then others were like, hey, I just saw your name on TV. And it was so, again, talk about humor. I mean, this was like big time funny. And
yeah.
Jeff, the next morning, I remember I'm walking in the office here, and Jeff's like, man, I am so sorry I put your phone on. I said, Jeff, this is priceless. Because, the rest of the story there, Josh, if you remember that day, this gives me chill bumps and talk about the grace of God. You and I talked about my cancer diagnosis. Mm-hmm. And this, I'm not making this up. You can't, but I talked about wanting to be more public with my diagnosis, because I'm a very, very private individual, but I talked about wanting to be more public about my cancer diagnosis in the hopes that I can help somebody.
Yeah.
Particularly about colon cancer. The testing and, the things that we're talking about here. And lo and behold, we have that conversation in the conference room next door. And 6 or 8 hours later, that happened.
Yeah.
You can't make this stuff up. When I tell that story, it gives me chill bumps.
So, but that's a great segue because, I think you guys have just spoken about how impactful and great the people at Vanderbilt have been, but there's a, if I remember correctly, you guys are kind of included in a book or it's coming out here soon, right?
It was amazing kind of the things that happened after that event. So, Clayton's sister worked at Vanderbilt for 20 years.
She did.
In the Ingram Cancer Center. Mm-hmm. And so Clayton reached out to her, and through those connections, Vanderbilt asked us if we would do some social media for them.
Yeah.
Which you know how good I am on social media.
You're excellent. Just look and stand there. That's all you do. Beautiful, buddy. That olive skin of his, man.
We did that, and then Clayton got his tickets through his connections to the Stand Up for Cancer event, which was in August, which was a nationally broadcast. It was a telethon, similar to what the old Jerry Lewis telethon used to be, and they were raising money for cancer research.
Yeah.
And so Clayton and I went down there with our
I remember
wives
that.
and heard some great music and stuff. And then after that, they came back to us and said, "Hey, Vanderbilt wants to write a book that's an encouragement for recently diagnosed patients to just kind of give them an insight as to what to expect."
Right.
And I think the difference and there's probably 20 or 25 people that they're interviewing for this book. I think Clayton and I are the only ones that are actively in the middle of.
They interviewed you guys together, didn't they?
They did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
They did.
yeah. So we'll see kind of what that.
When's that coming out?
We're not sure. We may not have made the cut list. I mean, they may have done a little research to find out who our mutual friend is, but
I might be being attacked today.
It's still being written, and we had a great time kind of telling our story, and again, hopefully to
It's a
influence
great
people.
story. It's like I talk about with Jericho and all those trials, and people are like, "Why do you tell?" Because it gives you a testimony. Everybody's going through something. Everybody. I don't care that you're either in the storm, coming out of it, or about to go into one. You can sit there and say things are great all you want, but we're all going through something, and it's that testimony of saying, "Hey, man, I am as messed up, if not more." Anyway, Paul talked about it in the New Testament. I'm the worst sinner out of everybody. He said that a couple of different times in the New Testament, but we're all going through things, but it's given me a testimony. It's given me a drive. It's given me a passion about talking about nutrition, talking about the pitfalls of drinking, talking about the pitfalls of not exercising, about developing other people, which is how you build a tremendous business. You don't focus on the money. You have to have money for the mission. You focus on the people. You develop the people. You lead the people. You manage the systems. And then the money is a byproduct, a fruit of a healthy company and a healthy culture, which is what has led us into all these things. I feel like Frank the Tank. You remember in Old School when he gets up on the debate stage and he goes into this complete perfect debate topic, and then he's like, "What just happened?" I just went on a complete monologue there. But anyways, that it has given you a testimony to share with other people, and it is important, and it is powerful, and it's yet to unfold. So, talking about unfolding, March 28th, showing for the colon, right? What are we doing? We showing up? We got a team? We got jerseys? What are we doing?
Jerseys.
What?
We give out T-shirts.
I got, listen, all right, part of the reason why I wanted you on this show, undeniable mentality, is it is what it is. It's about having a mentality towards life. We talk about, there's mindset and then there's mentality. Mindset to me is like a temporary thing that a person gets in order to get through something. Mentality is just like, that's how you're wired. That's how you've, forged your mind to live your life undeniably, right? Can't be stopped, right? And, we talk about this we were talking about this morning. When we set out to start building this, you have a vision of what you want. Do you know all the steps to get there? No, you don't. You have a good idea. You're going to make a ton of mistakes along the way. The important thing is you don't stop. You keep doing it for the right reason until you get to that dream or whatever it is you have. And then me being me, you just move it again. But it's, you guys exemplify that. Think about that. You guys have had surgeries. You've had some man fondling your liver, right? You have had discussions and talked about things that, are uncomfortable. Lord knows I'm good at making people feel uncomfortable, but you guys, you have had ports and IVs and people sticking you and dealing with weird crap like metallic tastes and food not tasting well, your hair falling out. God, he looks handsome no matter what. But anyways, you guys exemplify that. and continue to. And you are setting an example for your family, for your children, for everybody that's in your circle, right? That's why you're on this show. But talking to that March 28th thing, we need to get some shirts. We need to get some, like, maybe a tattoo. Micah would kill me. So we'll get like a stick on. Like those, like the thing you can wash off. And we'll show up, man. Undeniable mentality team. Let's raise some money. Let's do some good. Share with me that Strolling for the Colon. I know y'all did that last year. Tell me about that a little bit.
And it's a great organization because it's about awareness. And a lot of times, there's cancer events, which are all incredible important, but because colon cancer is a leading cause of death in so many, for males in so many age groups, young people under a certain age now, it's becoming more common. But also colon cancer is the easiest to be treated when caught early. So it's all about catching it early.
Mm.
And, back to, again, I've mentioned her name, this will be the third time, Katie Curry. What she went through with her family member, and you catch it early, but it's an awkward discussion because you're talking about, and this is coming from a guy that the most private person in the world. And now I talk to strangers about bowel movements and colonoscopies. Talk about God having a sense of humor. Let me tell you, that's funny. And if you knew how private here I am on a podcast talking about Clayton's colonoscopies, and I've had 3 or 4 now in the last, 5 years. Yeah, talk about bowel movements. If there's something that's weird, talk to your doctor about it. And that's what Strolling for the Colon's all about, is to raise awareness. Because they know, hey, if they test it, people would just talk to their doctor, go see their doctor, have the test performed. They're going to catch colon cancer very, very early and help a lot of people where they don't have to talk about multiple surgeries and multiple rounds of chemo and, years of treatment, where it could be treated in months, a much shorter duration. So that's what Strolling for the Colon is all about.
And neither one of y'all had symptoms either, right? Not that you really
look back on it and say, no, I didn't. I really didn't. I mean, there was probably maybe one occasion where I was concerned about something, and they've now dropped the age down to 45 colonoscopies. It used to be 50.
It was 50.
Yeah.
So, and now it's 45, and I would bet it's probably going to.
And then for our kids, they'll have to start getting screened 10 years prior to when we were diagnosed. So I was, 22. I was 47 when I was diagnosed. So they'll have to start getting colonoscopies at, 35, 36 years old.
Yeah. So where Strolling for the Colon is just strollingforthecolon.com. Do we know the website?
If you Google Strolling for the Colon, and it's a national organization, but the Nashville organization, they've got their separate event in Nashville.
Okay.
Last year, Jeff and I walked in it and had a great time. Got to see a lot of our healthcare team there. And the great thing, it's not affiliated with one healthcare provider. All the cancer providers in the area participate, and they've got teams. And that's what Jeff and I thought last year was, hey, let's put our own team together and let's use our influence of business friends that we have. Again, our goal is to raise awareness.
Yeah.
And guess what? If someone can't come walk with us, hey, send a check.
Yeah.
Give a little bit of money. And all that money is used for creating awareness. It is a fantastic nonprofit. And guess what? They don't even pay me to say this. Jeff and I went last year. We had some great pictures made, had a ton of fun. They were giving us grief as we crossed the finish line together. He's wearing a Georgia hat. I was wearing a Tennessee hat. And they're like, how'd these guys walk a 5K, with opposite teams like that? So,
I'm going.
It's Saturday, March 28th.
Yes.
We're going to have some Undeniable Mentality t-shirts. We're getting Clayton an extra small. It's going to be a on. Okay. Because by then he's going to have those pipes are going to be swollen. But, gentlemen, y'all, it's a pleasure. I mean, I'm proud to be able to call y'all friends and colleagues, and thankful for both of you. You've both had a great impact on my life. Thank you for putting up with me, and as your son's coach, and on the business side, C-Dub. But you guys, they talk about imposter syndrome a lot, and I think that's when a person doesn't feel like they are who God made them to be, and that's just Satan trying to hold you back. And just keep doing what you're doing, because what you're doing is courageous, and it's impacting people and legacies that I don't even think you can fathom, right? I think as we're going through when we go through an experience, we don't consider how other people are looking at it, but people watch what you do more than what you say, and you boys are living it, right? So, you absolutely embody what we view as an undeniable mentality. In our company, AEC, our mission statement, to be undeniable and a powerful force for Christ, right? You guys exemplify that, and I'm thankful for you. And thanks for coming on and telling your story. And let's do it again soon. Maybe we do like a podcast from Strolling for the Colon. What do you think, Willie? Can we get the lighting to work? I don't know. I don't know if we'll have enough time. Bed Bath & Beyond, Home Depot, I don't know. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thank you. That was awesome, guys.
Yeah.